Information is the principal thing that separates the haves from the have-nots. If this is the information age, and they say it's the information age, then my question is, why is there so little intelligence? Tonight, we will discuss the differences between information and intelligence. We will also take sort of a litmus test to see whether or not you are an informant or an information broker. Additionally, I'll give you 3 tips that'll help put you on the road to super intelligence. Let's get into this right after these messages here on Elevated Thinking. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Elevated Thinking Live. I'm your host, Mark Forrest. So glad that you are here with me. To those of you who are joining us for the first time, thank you for checking us out. We have a chat area. We'd always love for you to join us and with your comments and questions, as long as, of course, they're on topic and they follow all the Facebook and YouTube guidelines. But we're happy to have you here with us today. All right. And as I always say about these live streams on Sunday evening, they are what we make it. So your comments, your questions, your input is what makes it very valuable. So I look forward to that and look forward to hopefully a lively discussion tonight. All right. All right. With that said, let me go over to the chat room and see who's over there. It looks like we've got Brother Adrian on there. Hey, man, it's good to see you. Thank you so much for stopping by. And who else do we have on here? We've got Mama. We got Beatrice Vaughn on here as well. Thank you for being here. And I know we're going to have others that's always going to be joining in a little bit later on, all right? But hey, listen, before we get into this, I just want to say, we're kind of winding this February down, but this is a wonderful month, Black History Month, and I certainly hope that you all are doing some studying and research and finding out other things about Black history that you didn't know. That's what I always like to do. It's fun for me to just find out information that I didn't know before. People who contributed greatly to our society and to our culture. So hopefully you're doing that as well. And we got Cousin Carlene here. Hey, so good to see you here. Thanks so much for being in the room today. All right. Well, listen, with that said, tonight I want to talk about intelligence, information, and the importance of information and the importance of good, reliable information. But just before I get into that, I just want to make sure, because as y'all know, I'm always doing this, right? I'm always upgrading, always trying to make things a little bit better. So if for some reason the sound sounds off, I'm sure y'all can hear me, hopefully. Just let me know, all right? Because I got a new microphone that I'm using it a different way, using my lighting a different way, just always trying to improve, because after all, that's what I get out of the value of life, is what I call continuous improvement, right? That's what we're all trying to do. And hopefully I'm going to be of that mentality that I always want to improve until the day I leave this planet. So I just want to say, like, if something sounds off or anything like that, let me know. I've got my moderator on here that's giving me the okay sign. So that means it's good. Everybody say hello to my moderator, Miss Kelly. All right. So she's giving me the okay sign. And so I think we're good there. Hey, Letha, got you on here. Good to see you too as well. All right. And Carlene says, I can hear you very well. And you say, sounds great. All right. Good deal. Brother Adrian, I know that you are a content creator too. So what I did was I switched from my dynamic, well, not dynamic, but my condenser microphone, which you all are used to seeing this thing, right? And so now Now I'm using a shotgun microphone. So, all right. So good deal. And let me get my mouse back over to the right place. All right. Carlene says I'm doing good. And she says at the end, the sound goes out. All right. Let me know if it keeps doing that, and just let me know if somebody else is hearing that as well. And also, too, let me know, Letha, if you're watching on YouTube, because I know sometimes you have gone over there, and I really appreciate that because I kind of like to know, what's happening over there. All right. All right. So with that said, let's get into this. I think this is going to be a very informative and very exciting subject, and hopefully a lively dialogue between you and I about this thing, the difference between what we call information and intelligence. All right. So the first thing we want to look at is on this road to intelligence. And let me say this as sort of a disclaimer. When I say getting you on the road to intelligence, that is not to mean that I'm assuming that my audience is not intelligent. What I want us to understand is the difference between information and intelligence so we can capitalize on the intelligence. And that's what we want to do. So let's start off by doing this. Let's define information first. So information can be defined as data that has been organized and processed in a way that makes it meaningful and useful. All right. Makes it meaningful and useful. It can take many forms. It can take the forms of text messages. That's information, right? Images, audio, what you're hearing me, video, and it can be stored and transmitted in various ways, paper, computer files, over the internet. The thing is, information is often created, through observation, measurement, and analysis of phenomena. That's strange things that happen. It can be, and it's used to do informed decision making, solving problems, communicating ideals. But at its core, information is about the communication of meaning. It's a way of conveying knowledge, insights, and perspectives from one person or entity to another. In this sense, information is closely tied to language. We understand this, right? It provides a structure and vocabulary for expressing ideals and concepts. Information can be seen as a tool for understanding the world around us. It enables us to categorize things, compare things, evaluate different aspects of our environment in our society. So it's because of this that information has become increasingly important, especially in our modern era. So the volume of things become more complex. And how many of you know that our society has become so much more complex? The complexity of the data that's generated, human activity has grown exponentially. We've got advances in technology, and these advances have made it possible to capture, to store, and to analyze vast amounts of information in real time. So these are the important things about information. Here is the thing that concerns me sometimes. Sometimes I worry about, and sometimes I just worry about certain people who feel like information is not that important to them. And I worry about when people say, I hear people say about things like, I don't want to know about that, or, that doesn't concern me. For the past several weeks, I had been talking about finance and talking about the stock market, talking about the job market and things of that nature, just to kind of inform people. But what I find out is sometimes people become shy of learning new things because they feel like they don't have the capacity to learn. I know this because I was one of those people who felt like I didn't have the capacity to learn a lot of the more difficult things. So I just shied away from it. I just figured, I'm not going to worry about it. But let me let you know something, and hopefully this will encourage some of you. Listen, don't ever think that you don't have the capacity to learn new information. New information is there for you. And the thing that I want to let you know is don't ever compare yourself to someone else about your aptitude of how you learn information. We all learn information in different ways, right? So understanding that alone helps free us from feeling like maybe we don't have the capacity to learn something like about economics. Economics not only is not as difficult as you think, but it actually can be fun. But more importantly than that, the knowledge of economics is extremely powerful. So you can learn these things and never compare yourself to how fast somebody else is able to process information. As long as you learn how to process it. There have been times where I've read, and I've read a lot of medical manuals because I gain a lot of information, a lot of insight from those things. And there's a lot of technology, medical terminology that is way above my head. But you know what I do? When I get to a word that I don't understand, I stop, I go over to Google, and I type that word in, and I ask Google to give me give me the definition of it. And sure enough, it'll tell me what that means. And even if there's something inside of the definition, I'll look that word up, and I'll keep looking up words until I get an understanding of what it's saying. And sometimes we like to skip over some of the most difficult information in life, not to realize that what we are skipping over may be the most critical thing that we know. People who are the power brokers in our society and in our world, there's one thing that they know for certain. Information and knowledge is power. They used it to gain their power, they use it to gain great wealth, and they use it to maintain power. Unfortunately, they also have learned how to use it to oppress others. So don't let those people be the only people in the know. I want us to also be people in the know. And thinking about this in this Black History Month, I believe that information should be more important to us than anything in the world. Why? Because our ancestors lived and suffered. Many died just for us to experience the freedom of being in the know. At one point in our history, it wasn't illegal, but it seemed like the culture of slavery made it so illegal for Blacks, for the African, to even read. And you have to think about this for a moment. And I'm not getting off into a Black history lesson, but I just want to pause here for a moment. Why would an individual beat another individual for picking up a book? You may think that's just cruel, and it is cruel, but they knew that knowledge was power. And as soon as you start reading and gain knowledge, that is your first step to freedom. So if they suffered for us so that we might have the freedom to have information and knowledge, and now we're living in an age in 2023 where information is all around us. And now artificial intelligence, otherwise known as AI, has come on the scene like a storm. There is no excuse for Black Americans, for Hispanic Americans, for Native Americans. There is no excuse for any of us not to know about the things that are going on in life. And one of the big things is finance. And finance was a difficult thing for me. When I'm talking about finance, I'm talking about world economics, the economics of the government, the International Monetary Fund, the Federal Reserve Bank, all of that. I was determined to know that. You know why? Because why is it that they keep that information so hidden? There must be something to it. And I'm going to tell you something. I found out something about American and world economics, and one day, God willing, I want to share that information with you, because when you know better, when you know more, you can do more. When you know better, you can do better. So information is so critical. But I got to move on. I got to move on from there, because I want to get into the definition of intelligence, all right? Because information and intelligence are not exactly the same thing. Hey, Miss Maxine, it's so good to see you. All right, so let's define intelligence for just a moment. And I won't go through all of this, but I'll just tell you a little bit. Now, intelligence can loosely be defined as the ability to acquire, to process, and to analyze and use information effectively. It involves not only the capacity to learn and remember information, but also the ability to reason, problem solve, make decisions based on that information. Intelligence it's often measured through some standardized tests that, assess our cognitive abilities, such as language and memory and attention and spatial reasoning. So a lot of times when we talk about intelligence, sometimes we equate it to our family history, our lineage, our DNA. We say if that there were highly intelligent people in our family, our parents, our grandparents, and great-grandparents, then that intelligence would lead on to us. But let me tell you, please do not get caught up into some of the physical things of why some people are intelligent and some people are not. I've heard people say things like, oh, see, they're smart because their mom was smart, their dad was smart, or the grandparents was smart. And I'm sorry, there's very little even scientific medical information that says that somehow you can't be intelligent if you didn't come from intelligence. I think that's very misleading information. Intelligence is simply your ability to take information, process it, analyze it, and then formulate it into something that you can use. And people are doing that every day. We do that all the time. We take information, we look at it and process it, and then it becomes intelligence for us. I'll give you a perfect example. You all, many if not all of you all cook. And many of you all have cookbooks in your home. We have cookbooks in our home. The information, the cookbook contains the information. It contains the ingredients, and then it may contain some directions on how to mix the ingredients together. And then, like if you're baking a cake, it's going to tell you, what to put in it, and then what kind of pan to put it in. Do you put butter? Do you spray something on it? Do you put nothing on it? Do you put wax paper down? It's going to give you all of those instructions, tell you how the temperature of the oven, how hot should it be? How long should it be in there? All of that is information. Intelligence is the ability to take that information and interpret it so that way you can actually begin to utilize it. And that's what intelligence is. And intelligence is the road that we want to be on. I find it interesting that in some of our clandestine organizations that sit below the surfaces of the CIA and the FBI, organizations that you and I don't readily hear about. Often they refer to the information that they gather as intel. They don't always refer to it as information, though it starts off with information, but sometimes they'll refer to it as intel. And I often wondered why. And when I started looking up some of these things, I even went to the CIA website and the FBI website just to look at some things. I tend to find out that intel puts you at a step above everyone else. Intelligence puts you at the next level, because what you've done is you've not only taken the time to gather the information, but now you're processing it in such a way that you can use it effectively in your life. And that's what makes the difference between information and intelligence. Okay, I'm going to tell you something right now. Listen, you got some folks who are around here like a walking encyclopedia. You ever met these people that can tell you everything about everything? I always say there's people that carry around useless information. Useless information is just that. It's information that it may tickle the ears, but it doesn't really do anything effective for anybody. They just like to carry around a lot of information. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, you're telling me all of this, but how can I apply that to my life? How can I apply that to the life of my family, my community? What can I do with it? If the information has no value and all it's doing is just tickling the ears, so to speak, you can keep that information. I'll do something else. So the thing is, I want information to be useful. And if it's not useful, then there's no way that it can graduate to intelligence. And when you're talking about organizations like the FBI, the CIA, the NSA, and even some organizations within the military, when they collect information, they're parsing it. When I say parsing it, they're separating the data because they want to know what can we use, what's useful and what's useless. We also want to be careful that we're not bearers of just information, as I said previously, that just titillates or tickle the ears. You know what I'm saying? We want to try to avoid that. Why? Because there's a lot of people around here, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. You got some folks around here that know who died today, who got sick, who got shot, all this bad information. And they're just all too anxious to tell you all about it, just to say, oh, did you hear what happened today? Oh, somebody done fell into a lake. Oh, okay, well, are they okay? Oh, I don't know. Well, we'll pray for them, but is that it? Yeah, that's all I got to say. Some people like to share that information all the time. You ever know people just always sharing bad information? Come on, let's be honest. Have you ever gotten on Facebook? You start scrolling through your timeline, and it's always just certain people that's always sharing negative, bad stuff, and some of this stuff is important to know, but they always feel like it's so important for you to know. I'm at this place in my life where the information that comes to me, I have to guard the gates of my mind, guard the gates of my heart, because I want to be able to take information and utilize it for the betterment of my life, for the betterment of my family, for the betterment of my community, for the betterment of my church. And I don't want to take a lot of time having to take the trash out, so to speak. And I also try to make sure I guard against people wanting to feed me trash, because all information ain't that good. And as a culture, as a people, let's upgrade the type of things, the type of information that we are allowing in our lives. Let's upgrade. I believe in having a good time, but silly information doesn't produce anything but silly people. Useless information doesn't do anything but make a useless generation. There's this thought among older generational people that young people know so much about computers, and they do. And honestly, I mean, raise your hand if you're one of those people that just think, well, they're young, so they know about computers and they know about technology and all that. Well, can I inform y'all this? We got a generation today that don't know about technology. I know you're looking at me strange in your phone right now going, did you just say that young people don't know about technology? Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. I'm here to tell you they don't know about technology today. What they know about technology is being an end user. They know how to get their phone out, go on Facebook, go on Twitter, go on Instagram, drop a photo in there, drop a meme in there, say something funny or cute, show some twerking videos and so forth like that. That's all they really know about the technology. But if you ask them a question and say, you know what, I've always been curious. How does the internet get from where it's at to our house? Ask them that question. Ask anybody under the age of 25 that very question. How does the internet work? They're going to look at you with this blank stare in their eyes. If you ask them, you say, I sent an email today, and I know, your generation knows all about this stuff. How does email get from my computer to another person's computer in a matter of seconds? How does that happen? And those young people are going to stare at you and go, I don't know. I just send emails. You ask them, you say, how do text messages actually work? I mean, how does those words I type into my phone just magically go in the air and just travel over to someone else? How does that happen? I don't know. Exactly. I dare y'all, some of y'all try it. Try it with your kids, try it with your grandkids, and just ask them. because they have become users, consumers of technology, but they're not the ones that's driving the technology, that's creating the technology. And only the most powerful people in our world are the ones that not only can tell you how it works, they're the ones that's making it work. You ask them how email works, they say, I don't know. You ask somebody, say, how does it communicate? If you ask me, because somebody probably said, some young person may be watching, well, if you asking us, well, how does email work? Well, I can tell you how it works. It works through something called SMTP, Simple Mail Text Protocol. It's a protocol that uses over the internet lines. The internet lines come from your cable, your coaxial cable lines, and then it goes through into an IPv4 connection. Every person has their own IPv4 address and IPv6 address. I can run it down, honey. You know why? Because I don't want to be one of the ones left behind and not knowing how things are working. When you know how the technology works, then you can guard yourself against things like hacking and so forth like that, and people breaking into your Facebook accounts and of that nature. But my point is, I don't want us, especially as a people, to become so fixated as consumers of information, okay, as consumers of the end result of information, that we're not learning the information of how these things work. These are the power brokers, the very wealthy of our society. They know how money works because they've taken the time to understand it. And they maintain their riches because they take the time to understand. I was talking last week or the week before about how our money in dollars are no longer backed by gold. Some of you may have watched that. I don't know if all of you have seen that. If you hadn't, I encourage you to go back and watch the previous live stream. But I was talking about that. And I was talking about how the Federal Reserve is now really the most powerful institution when it comes to our money. And I was explaining to you all how the feds will raise interest rates to help cool down the spending in the economy. They can't have too much spending going on. But one of the things that I can tell you is that economics is so done on such a microscopic level that employers, these big businesses and corporations, they are not disconnected as you might think. These CEOs of these major corporations, they talk to each other. And one of the things that they talk about, which they're not supposed to, is they talk about pricing. They've got all that figured out. They got figured out, you take this piece of the pie, you take that piece of the pie, and then you take that piece of the pie, and you get a little bit bigger piece, and then next month, I'll get a little bit bigger piece. Trust me, they do this. They talk about how much they're going to pay their associates. Because remember, a company can afford, they certainly can afford to pay you $100,000, $200,000, $300,000. But economics doesn't dictate that because that prices you out of the market. So one of the things that they do in economics is they make sure that they pay you just enough to pay your bills, but never enough to put away to buy your own business. And they're not doing that just haphazardly. Trust me, they know what they're doing. But when you have the information and know things like that, then you can start changing your mind about your job, as I had to do many years ago, and say, I'm not here on this job because I need this paycheck to pay my bills. I need this paycheck to put away so that way I can start my own stream of income, so that I can start my own business. And in fact, long before I was able to actually start my own businesses, which I have several businesses that I operate now, I would start saying it to myself. I would start saying, you're not here to make money to pay bills. This money is an investment to your future. Every day I would go into work saying that, knowing good and well that I was living paycheck to paycheck. That's right. I was living paycheck to paycheck. But every day when I walked in that place, I said, you're not here to use this money to try to pay your bills. This money should be going to work. And the more I talked about that, the more I started, I'm going to tell you what it felt like. It felt like my money was stretching further. I wasn't getting paid more. It just seemed that there was more money available after I paid my bills. And what happening was, it wasn't so much of a miracle as a change of heart. The information that I had been learning about personal finance was, I found out that when I got paid, I was purchasing things that were totally unnecessary. I was purchasing things out of redundancy. You know what redundancy is? That's when you buy something and you realize that you already have it at home. Redundancy. I realized that I was eating out a lot at lunchtime. And then I realized, why don't you just take food from home and cook that? And so my money started stretching further. And so with that extra money, what I did was, is I didn't take that and decide to go buy myself some new clothes or anything of that nature. I put that money away into an account until I could learn what to do with that money. From that point, I learned that I could actually invest that money. I had some options. I could either buy more stock within the company that I was working for, or I could take that and put that into a mutual fund. I had to learn what a mutual fund was before I could do that, because most people was like, what's a mutual fund? So I had to learn what that was. I had to learn about the New York Stock Exchange. I had to learn what the S&P 500, Standard & Poor's 500. I had to learn what those things were. And when I started learning, I said, well, I'll put a little piece of money there and try it out. So I try it out and see what it does. And I say, okay, that did pretty good. I'll take a little bit more of my stash and put it there and put it there. And eventually what will happen is you forget about that money. Next thing you know, 2 or 3 years later, you're getting a letter in the mail that's informing you that not only do you have this money that you've been investing in this account, but that there have been dividends paid towards that. And not only dividends, but the stock has gone up. So where you've invested $500, you now realize that a year later, there's $1,500 sitting in there. But all of that came from the acquisition of knowledge. And then when the knowledge is completed, it turns into intelligence. So it's not about being smart. It's not about being a brainiac. It's not about having a 4.0 average in school. It is about the effort that you and I must take to know more than we know right now. So that way we can do more than we know right now. Everybody wants to talk about Black Wall Street, but nobody's doing anything to build it. So my desire for you and for myself is that we find out what we need to do to better our situation. Why do I want to better my situation? Oh, some people say, well, I want to be a millionaire. I want to be a multimillionaire. I want to be a billionaire. You know, that's all well and good. Those used to be my goals. I used to say that a lot. I used to say, oh, I would love to be a millionaire. Yeah, I want to be a millionaire. I want to have $1 million. And then, you know, some people say, no, man, I want to be a multi-millionaire. And after a while, you start thinking, well, how much is too much? How much is enough? You know? And so finally, I changed my mentality. So now being a multi-millionaire is no longer a goal of mine. In fact, if you talk to millionaires, which I've had the opportunity to, I don't know any multi-millionaires, but I've talked to millionaires, and you find out that their goal, they're not fixed on money. They are fixed on another goal. So my goals have been that I want my side hustles, my businesses, to be able to generate enough income so that I can utilize the income from my job for investments. That was my goal. I'm going to share something with you that I wasn't going to share, but I'm going to go ahead and share it because y'all know how transparent I am, right? And I don't mind sharing it. But that's what I wanted to do. We talked about unemployment. I've talked about all of that and how to, get a new job and think. We've done that in different live streams. What you don't know is that in December 31st of last year, when we had all these tech companies laying off, Google, Microsoft, Amazon, all these tech companies laying off, tens of thousands of jobs lost. I work for a tech company. And December 31st was my last day they laid me off to. I'm sharing that with you for this reason. Don't ever think that this information that I'm sharing with you is somehow pulled off of some book somewhere in a library. I live this stuff. When I'm letting you know this, giving you this information, I'm giving you information that I have lived. And there's nothing wrong with getting information out of books. I read books all the time. Y'all know that. But I'm saying I've lived this stuff. And thank God that I had enough wherewithal to be able to take money earned from jobs and bank it away, because I'd have been in a pretty bad fix by it right now. So what I'm sharing with you is learn everything that you can about the world around you. Because I know the next thing you're thinking is, well, what should I learn? Learn about the world around you. Start with current events. You know, I know it's fun to read the stuff on Facebook and who's doing what and who's acting silly. And I love that stuff. I mean, you know, I love to laugh, and those that know me personally know I like to have a good time. But at some point, you're going to need to listen to what's going on in the world around you. You're going to need to understand a little bit more about the different interactions of countries. Some people say, yeah, I hear about this war going on between Russia and some other little country. I don't know what the name of it is. You need to know the name of it. The war between Russia and the Ukraine. You need to know about this. You need this information. You say, well, why would I need to know this? Why would I need to know about the war in the Ukraine? I mean, it's not like Russia is attacking us. They're attacking another country. And I feel bad for that other country. But what does that have to do with me? I can tell you exactly what that has to do with you. Hopefully I got some younger generational people, or some people who love to play games. Some of you all like to play games on your phones, right? How many of you, just raise your hand, you like to play those little games on your phone? I love to play. I play games on my tablet, play games on my phone. I love them because they give you a way to breathe and relax and just kind of get away from all of the craziness of life. I love to play those games. Well, you may not know, but most of those games that you are playing are produced out of the Ukraine. And I remember one particular game that I play. I don't mind telling it. I play a game called Asphalt 9. It's a racing game. Some of you might be familiar with it. I love playing that game. And when this war started, I remember right at the beginning of playing the game, there was a little thing up at the top says, please pray for us. We're having to relocate. These people that are trying to sustain my enjoyment, my relaxation, were literally had their computers and laptops under their arm running away out of gunfire and mortar shelling, while they're trying to make me relax and have fun. That's right. One of the things that most Americans are not aware about the Ukraine is that in that little country, there is a lot of technology that is produced there. There are a lot of the computer boards that are used in computers and cell phones and other peripherals and computer monitors. Those boards are made over in the Ukraine. Putin wasn't just attacking them just for the power and the oil. He was trying to get that country back because he knows how much business that Ukraine country does with the rest of the world. When I was working at my last employer, I remember there were parts that we had to wait forever on because those parts were actually made in the Ukraine. So why am I saying this? I'm saying that when you know what's happening in the world around you, sometimes you'll begin to understand better why there are certain things happening in your society, what things happening in your neighborhood, things that can actually affect your own personal life. You want to go to the car lot, like I've talked about before, and buy a car, and you go to the car lot and find out, wow, this car is not even there. In fact, the car lot is bare. They're empty of cars, and that's because those particular chips come out of China. And China has been undergoing a massive issue with COVID, While we're in this country acting like COVID is just over with, walking around with no mask and coughing and laughing in people's faces, they're over there still suffering from it. So because of that, they can't produce these things. This kind of information you should know. And you say, well, why would that be important to me? Because, well, when you go to buy a used car at the car lot, that used car that should cost you $10,000 now it's going to cost you $15,000 because they can't get parts for new cars, which means that demand for used cars goes up. And when demand goes up, prices go up. All this kind of information is something that our country and especially our people should know. And in this era of Black history, I challenge you. I challenge you. Tell yourself, you know what? I'm not going to walk around with my head stuck in the sand. I'm going to know what's going on around me. The other thing that'll help you too with is politics. When these politicians start running for office again and bombarding our phones with have you voted and all of that stuff and our TVs and other things, you'll be able to make a more informed decision about who you should vote for. You may all of a sudden decide like, okay, this is the popular person. Everybody's saying we should vote for them, but I've checked their track record and it don't look too good. That's the kind of information that you and I should know. And when we know this, we'll be able to take our information and turn it into intelligence. And then we can move from being an informant to an information broker. An information broker is different than an informant. All informants do is just carry things that they see, carry things that they hear. Like informants for the police or other law enforcement agencies. They use informants to go out and bring information back. But all they're reporting is what they see and what they hear and what they've experienced. But sometimes with these types of informants, the information can be tainted. What I want us to be is not just informants, but information brokers, where we've taken the information and processed it, and people can come to us for good information, for solid information. That's where I want to be. I want to be an information broker. That allows me to be a blessing to my family, a blessing to my community, a blessing to my church, a blessing to my culture. When I can broker information, when I know something that I can give you that's going to benefit you right now. If I know that you're looking for a particular job in a particular field, and I just happen to know somebody that's hiring in that field, and I just happen to know the hiring manager, wouldn't it be a grand thing if I could call you up on the phone and say, hey, heard you was looking for this job. I got something for you. Let me tell you something. The last 4 jobs that I've held, which have spanned over 20 years, I never interviewed with HR. Never been in HR's office for an interview. It's because the person that I worked for would call the manager that they knew in the other company and make an introduction for me. I would go over and talk to that manager, and it was that manager that would tell HR, this is the person I want. When you have information and intelligence like that, you can bypass the other things that people have to go through, and you can move past them. That's what intelligence does. It drops you out of the line, that long line of people just waiting and waiting. Intelligence pulls you out of the line and pushes you up front to the head of the line. Yes, intelligence gives you an advantage. Yes, intelligence gives you favor because that's what you need. And that's what we want, right? Right. And wow, it is, have I talked that long? All right. Before we go away, I told you I'd give you 3 tips to help put you on the road to that super intelligence that we're looking for. So jot these down. The first thing you want to do is become self-aware of what you don't know. That's the first place to start. What don't I know? Where do I lack in my life? And then the second thing you want to do is seek to know. Asking, it shall be given. Seeking, ye shall find. Of course, it starts off with knock, and it shall be opened unto you. That scripture But that's a universal principle. Asking, it shall be given. Seeking, you'll find. Knocking, the door shall be open to you. You don't have to be saved, sanctified, Holy Ghost filled, or fire baptized to operate in that principle. If you seek, you'll find it. And then finally, take information that you have and analyze it. It's called data parsing. Analyze the information and say to yourself, how can this information benefit me or someone I know, someone that I love, someone that I care about? And decide, if this information is not beneficial to me now, or I don't see it being beneficial in the future, find a trash can and put it there. And then retain the information that you have. And then you take that information and start applying it to areas of your life that you need to improve. Once you apply, in college, we call this applied sciences as opposed to theoretical science. So you take the theory and then you apply the theory to something that's real. And then you look at the results and analyze that, see what you need to turn, tweak, change, and from that, you might want to change and do something different. Once you have begun to successfully apply that and you see how well it's working for you, you then give the information to someone else. Remember, what you make happen for someone else, God makes happen for you, right? So you give the information to someone else. When you see that they're using it, what you have done, and we haven't even gotten into this subject yet, is when you take applied intelligence or intellect and begin to use it consistently, that's when you move from intelligence to wisdom. Everybody talks about wisdom, but wisdom is the skillful application of knowledge that has shown consistent results. And I'm not quick to call everybody wise, because before I call you wise, what I want to see is a track record of where you've taken what you know and applied it to your life or the life of other people, and there has been consistent results in the delivery of what you know. Once I know that, then I call you wise. And that's where we're headed. Let me look over the chat area. I've just been talking away and hadn't seen if anybody had any questions or comments. All right. Are there any questions? Anything anybody want to contribute? Because we got more about this. We're going to get into this. Oh, I want to share so much information with you that I hope will be a benefit to you and a blessing in your life. All right. So this is what I want to do. Okay. Hopefully y'all can still hear me. I know the last time I went to this screen, I had my sound cut out, but I do want to say to each and every one of you, thank you so much for those of you all who are regular contributors to Elevated Thinking Live. It is a great benefit to us. And I believe that your contribution, not only does it help us, but that contribution also goes back to help you, because it allows me, it allows this program to do the things that it wants to do. My fervent desire is that people be informed and walk in knowledge and move away from what they call ignorance, but move into knowledge and understanding. And that's what I enjoy doing. I enjoy teaching. I love to teach. That's my heart and that's my passion. So I thank you all. Those of you who'd like to contribute, right there on the screen there is my Cash App. And again, thank you for all of those that contribute. So with that said, listen, if there's nothing else, I want to tell each of you, have a wonderful week. Look for opportunities to learn and to grow. And remember, in everything that you do, always elevate your thinking. God bless.